What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Pull Up and Chat. My name is BJ Mathews, aka B. Just before we get started, follow us on the YouTube page, the Pull Up Basketball Podcast, Spotify, Iheartradio, Twitter, TikTok, the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. All of our YouTube videos, you know what I'm saying? Hit that notification bell by subscribe button, get our updated content. Let's get it popping. Oh my gosh. Talk about playoff basketball last night. High intensity. And just very went down to the wire. The Minnesota Timberwolves defeated LA Clippers 104-109 last night in Minnesota. High impact game, high value game, and it was such a back and forth emotional game. And so many sentiments that I got to share with y'all, so let's get into it. All right, look. First of all, let me give credit to the Minnesota Timberwolves for winning this game and being prepared for the moment. Let me give the Minnesota Timberwolves credit for their best player going out the game and still keeping their composure and being able to offset the LA Clippers, who are the better team overall from top to bottom. But you only have to make one win, and they had the opportunity to make it last night, and they took advantage of it. So let me give credit to the Timberwolves for that. Let me talk about some of the things that went wrong for the Clippers. The Clippers did not make the key plays down the stretch. It wasn't that they didn't make shots throughout the game. It's not that they didn't, like play within the offense. It wasn't that anything. It wasn't anything major. It was the little things that got cost in this game. If I look at the stat sheet, like I'm looking at it, the Clippers shot better than the Timberwolves. They shot 43.6% from the two. Minnesota shot 43.4%. Clippers shot 45% from the three. They shot 40%, and the Timberwolves shot 40%. From the free throw line, the Clippers shot 74%. The T-Wolves shot 62%. So it wasn't a shooting thing about making shots that cost them this game. It's the fact that they didn't take advantage of putting a nail in the coffin when they had a chance to. If y'all remember, the largest lead for the Clippers was in the third quarter, actually the fourth quarter, where they were up by 10 points. Karl-Anthony Towns was out. All they had to do was match the scoring for the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves went on a 21-5 run to end the game. That's what cost them that game. And that's what led for the Timberwolves to win. I felt some of the guys let Pat Bev get in their heads, such as Marcus Morris at the beginning. I felt that Paul George, even though he did have had the highest point game out of anybody on the team or in the whole game with 34 points, I kind of wish he would have got going early, because he started off the game about, I think, 2 for 8. So if he had started cooking early, then you could put that game away a lot more easy. But you made it so close for such a quiet time. You made Minnesota have that belief that they can win, and with that crowd behind them, that plays a factor. Luke Kennard, I feel like with him not playing last night, really hurt the Clippers, because now you miss a guy who's gonna make outside shots. That's what Luke Kennard is. He's a sharp shooter. They didn't really have any sharp shooters last night that were just gonna catch and shoot and just make all their threes. Nicholas Batum hit a couple big threes. I felt Reggie Jackson was a little bit streaky last night. He made some bad turnovers at the end of the game. Marcus Morris let Pat Bev get in his head a little bit, and it's just a situation where you allow the Minnesota Timberwolves to stay in the game, and that's what gave them the belief that they can win that game. Now let me go into the Timberwolves side. So the T-Wolves last night, a lot of things went it wasn't, if you looked at it on paper, if you looked at the game, you would think the Clippers had the advantage, but in a weird way, the T-Wolves had the advantage off of their best player not playing a lot of minutes. Karl-Anthony Towns ended with 11 points and I think 5 rebounds last night. He kept getting into foul trouble. The Clippers did a great job of nullifying him and not letting him go off. So, guys like Batum, Covington, Zubac were able to double him in the corners, as well as, on the key, and he's getting a lot of chippy fouls. So once Cat went out in the third quarter, I believe it was either third or, the start of fourth, that was the Clippers' time to really just put their foot on their neck. But they've allowed them to come through. Now, see, the problem is what happened is Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell lived up to the moment. D'Angelo Russell, he's not a very quick, fast point guard. He's not that athletic, but he's very crafty. He's able to get into the seams. He's very smart. And he does not allow the pressure to get to him as a point guard. He's very composed. And that's the perfect guy you need for the playoffs. That's going to be able to control the tempo. Anthony Edwards is a guy who's a gamer and he gets up on big games. He has no fear of anybody, and he's the type of dude that's going to, rise to the occasion, right? So you mix that in with their guard play, as well as Malik Beasley hitting shots. I think his last name is Reed. He hit some threes. McDaniel's playing, solid defense on, Reggie Jackson. So they have the outside shooting to match with the Clippers. When you mix all that in, as well as the 50-50 balls, the Timberwolves had 49 rebounds to the Clippers 39 rebounds. They had more grit to get after those 50-50 balls down the stretch of the game, because there's a couple plays that y'all can go back and watch where the Timberwolves got the 50-50 balls from the Clippers and hit a three right after. Those are demoralizing shots to your ball club. And if those shots don't go in for the Timberwolves, then the Clippers have more cushion to make more mistakes. But the fact is that you keep allowing them to get the 50-50 balls and they out hustling you, and then Pat Bev doing what he's doing, stealing the ball and stuff like that, and being very high emotional, mixed in with the crowd, the game can change just like that. It can change very quick. So you're mixing all that, as well as the biggest factor, of course, Pat Bev. Now, this is where I have to say, statistics are not the end-all, be-all. When you're playing on a basketball championship team and you want to be able to compete, there's certain personalities that you need to make you that type of team. And Pat Bev, he prepared the Timberwolves last night against the LA Clippers. Pat Bev knew the Clippers, what their scheme was. He was able to somewhat nullify Reggie Jackson down the stretch of that game to make him make some errors that, cost him that game. As well as Pat Bev, from start to finish, he knew how these guys worked. He knew how they operated. He took it very personally. If y'all don't remember the backstory about how Patrick Beverley left the Clippers, in all, Pat Bev has been with that team for over 5 years. He's there with Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, and then he was there with Kawhi and PG for the last 2 seasons. So there's a connection that he had with that team. And after the game, they won, the Timberwolves won, he started shedding tears and running to the locker room. Take it from somebody who's played basketball. That's the emotion that he's been keeping in deep side all year long, right? He's been keeping up with that emotion all year long, because at the end of the day, you have to remember how he left the Clippers. The Clippers did not want to pay him what he felt he was owed. And since they didn't want to do that, Pat Bev had to tell him, look, you can't pay me what you need to pay me. I got to go. I got to leave. So he felt disrespected at that time. Now, does Pat Bev deserve a certain amount of money? I believe he did, because of what the culture he brought to the Clippers and what he meant to that team. You should give him what he asked for. I'm pretty sure it wasn't like a ridiculous amount, but the amount that they gave him was almost as if he felt like they were holding it against him, what he did to Chris Paul in the playoffs last season. And he's like, look, man, I've been a ride or die for y'all. We've had success with this team. I'm a big piece to this puzzle. I just want what I'm rightfully paid. So, he circled this game on his calendar. He certainly circled this game on his calendar, and he made those guys like Anthony Edwards, Malik Beasley, D'Angelo Russell, all those guys keep composure while their big man Karl-Anthony Towns was out the game. I don't believe if Pat Bev was there, they would have even been in that game to begin with. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves they were very young, and I don't think they would have been able to have that composure against the Clippers. But you had a guy like a Pat Bev who's able to give your teammates that belief and be a vocal leader. That was the difference of that game. And listen, if you ask me, I think the Clippers actually caught a break, because in my opinion, they match up better with the Phoenix Suns. If they play against San Antonio or New Orleans on Friday, they beat them. They gotta beat them first. They gotta deal with Phoenix. I believe they can have a better matchup against Phoenix than Memphis. I don't think the Clippers match up well against Memphis. I don't. I saw the games this season. I think Memphis is going to be. They can beat them. They can beat anybody. But I think the way they played Phoenix, it's like the Clippers have the formula to beat this team. Now you add Kawhi back to this lineup, then for sure they'll be the favorites. But they just gotta take care of business on Friday. They cannot afford If they lose on Friday, none of this matters. But it's just going to come down to execution and starting the game off early on the right foot. But Minnesota, congratulations to them. I think it's going to be a high impact game against Memphis. Watch out for them against Memphis. I think they can beat Memphis because they match up well. It's going to all come down to matchups and how you match up with certain teams. So that's all I got to say about that. You know what I'm saying? The Clippers are still in it. And, you know, you just got to see what happens on Friday. You know what I'm saying? Pull up a seat, pull up a chair, pull up. Peace. I like swimwear.